Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby, accompanied by my co-host, Robert Pipeno. And tonight we have with us Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and he's going to call Robert Joe probably most of the night, but I think that's kind of cute. Anyways, before we get started, and he'll be joining us in about a half an hour, but we're going to go over a few things, Robert and I are, and until he shows up. Okay, a little bit of canned heat there. Okay, cutie patootie.
Good. I thought we were going to play the Billie Holiday tune.
Oh, we are. Closing.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we play two.
That's right.
And
last week...
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but last week, just so everybody knows, and because I was so busy talking to Marshall, I was not paying attention to the chat, and this is what we really need to talk about, is what happened. What awful, just a horrible thing. Poor Marlo. And thank God poor Marlo now is great Marlo, is in good shape. That's a wonderful thing. But, yeah, I'm sorry that I was not paying attention to the chat because I was so engrossed in the conversation.
I gotta laugh because I so love Robert from Michigan. He always comes in a little bit late sometimes, but he shows up.
Yeah.
He's one of our regular listeners. And I was writing into the chat to you, Robert, please wrap up the show. I gotta go. Marlo's sick. I need to call the vet. And Robert from Michigan thought I was talking to him. So he's typing in the chat, oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Poor guy. Oh, Lord.
And, I tried to keep him my composure, but Marlo was in grave. He was really in bad shape.
Right.
We didn't talk about it, but last Friday was my birthday, and being a tyrant, that I get special little birthday presents from my perps, and they had killed one of my dogs on my birthday back in 2006, and unfortunately, he was poisoned too, and Marlo was poisoned Friday, and he got sick around 2 in the afternoon. He threw up. And we were being microwaved pretty heavily that day. And I thought, I was just thinking, he throws up a lot when we get microwaved, so I didn't think much of it. And then during the show, he started getting worse. He wouldn't even get up on the couch next to me. He just stood there like, I don't feel good. I muted myself, and thank God that you took over talking, Robert. I muted myself, and I immediately went over to YouTube and started looking at videos of signs of what happens when your dog's been poisoned. And they said, look at the gums. So I looked at his gums, and he had all the indications. They were white. They weren't colored. And I was just beside myself.
Sure.
So I did ask for prayer. I played the closing song, and I said, I'm very upset. Marlo's really sick. I'm going to call the vet right now. Please pray for him. So those that did pray for him, I just want to thank you all for your prayers. It was midnight here in Michigan. It was a little after midnight, and I called over to the vet, and I thought, they do have a crossover for an emergency that brings it at his house. But I thought, he's not going to get up at midnight. He's going to say, whatever it is, call me in the morning. And wouldn't you know it, God bless his soul, 1:45, my phone rang, and it was the vet. He called me back. I told him what was going on, and he said, you need to carry him into the other emergency vet and get him on an IV. Well, that wasn't happening, you guys. I was so sick from being microwaved, I couldn't get my truck out at 1 in the morning and lift that dog up in it. Marlo weighs about 80 pounds, so I was like, that ain't happening. And I explained to him that I couldn't because I wasn't physically capable of getting him up in the truck. And so he said, he's going to become dehydrated, and he's going to have diarrhea. And he said the main thing is you got to keep making sure you get water in him. So we were forcing water down Marlo, and he wouldn't open his mouth. He kept his teeth shut, like, leave me alone. But we were forcing water down him, and sure enough, the next day, he did have diarrhea, and he told me exactly what they would do for him if he was on an IV. Mainly the IV was to keep him from getting dehydrated. He told me to make him rice and chicken, like chicken breast, boil them and boil some rice and pour a little chicken broth over it. So that's what I did, and feed him small amounts of it during the day until he can start eating again. And he said that the rice would absorb the toxins too. So I did that, and he started eating the next day. He started eating that, and it took a couple days. I mean, I was sweating bullets, and I was yelling at the Lord, you're taking this dog from me too. You just took Trixie 2 weeks ago. I can't deal with this.
Right, right. Well, yeah, you know what? You had every right to be upset. I mean, come on. Everything that had been going on and had been happening, and then to have to go through that again 2 weeks later, that's devastating.
Well, and the worst part about it is we had a feeling that Trixie wasn't going to make it through the winter, so we already dug her grave. But
right.
when she died, it had been cold and frozen out there, and the hill of dirt was frozen, so we had to take a pickaxe to it. And actually, we only got half of the dirt on her. But what I did was I went and got her comforter, because the grave was full of water. We couldn't get her body to stay down. So,
right.
And she was in a body bag. I had a body bag that my friend that does autopsies gave me a body bag for her. So I've had it for a while. So she was in that freaked the vet out. He goes, "What's this?" I said, "Oh, I'm friends with the mortician or the coroner." I said, "I'm friends with the coroner." And I said, he gave me a body bag. He goes, "Man, I've been a vet for a long time." He goes, "This is the first. I've seen garbage bags, I've seen quilts, I've seen blankets, but I've never seen a body bag."
Wow.
Bad baby strikes again. So when I brought her home to bury her, there was so much thawing that the grave was full of water. We couldn't get her body to stay down. So, and every time we put dirt on the body bag, it just washed off and it kept floating. So right. I put her comforter over her, and I got it wet to hold it down some, and then we started putting the dirt over the comforter, and it started staying. But the hill was so frozen that we couldn't get it to, chop up. So right. Basically, when the ground thaws, I'm going to be out there, and I'm going to continue to cover my dog's grave. And I was right. sitting there thinking, oh, my God, is there going to be room around the tree to dig another one? And every time I thought about that, I'm not doing it. I refuse. I refuse to let this dog go. And thank God he was sick probably 3-4 days, and he still has a few moments where he freaks us out. We'll go, oh, he's not acting right. We're all nervous about it.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, to go through that loss, because they are family members. I have 2 cats. You know that. I love them dearly.
Yeah.
But when you lose one of them, it's like losing a family member, and it's devastating. And thank God that Marlo is okay, and he's going to be around a long time. At least I think so. I believe so. He's going to be around a long time.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's been back to his old self. And I took him. I've been spoiling him since Trixie's gone, because he's lost, and he's always laying on me, and he's just lost without her. So I've been spoiling him, and so I took him over there, and after he started feeling better, and I got his pit and tail nose done, and he loves getting his nails done, because those girls over there just, oh, he's so beautiful, he's just like a big hand bone over there. But I took him there, and then he likes to go to Wendy's and get his hamburger and have his little outing. He's always got his little, I got one of those big plastic cups in my drink thing in the front of my truck. It comes down below my radio. And he knows that's his water, and I always keep it full. And he just loves it. He just drinks his water and stands there and looks around. If I tell him lay down, I got to see, he lays right down. He's getting real good at the truck.
That's wonderful. I mean, it really is. I'm just so thankful that he's okay. And it's just
me too.
Yeah, horrible situation. And I think
I feel like I'm on the emotion. And you know what really ticks me off is when those perps come in this window and they start writing, "Badbaby, I heard you're not a target anymore. How did you get out of it?" It just turns my stomach because I never told anybody I got out of it. And if I am out of it, would someone please tell my perps and let me out of it?
Let's
Somebody
just,
forgot to inform my perps.
Let's just hope that statement was correct, and maybe it was a perp who wrote that, and maybe they're saying, okay, that's it.
Trying
that's
to
enough.
push my buttons, Robert. Please, you know. I mean, I've been telling you what I've been going through for the last month.
I know. I absolutely know.
You know, let me tell everybody. Let me tell you guys a couple of things have been happening. I have huge pine trees around my property, so they decided to send DTE over here and cut them. You know, they always do come around every once in a while and take a couple feet off the top so that they're below the wires. But they came and cut my trees in half.
Well, you told me the whole story, and guys, if you understand, if she has time to tell the whole thing, you'll be like, I would have never stood for that, and you know I said that. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah, what
I did go out there and stop them from continuing, and I threw them off my property, and they started giving me the perpetrator grin. They're all over there laughing. They knew what they did. See, when they cut them where I could see them out my window, they cut them the right way, just a few feet. But when they got on the other side of the house, the back side of the house, where I wasn't seeing them, that's when they cut them, and that's where they shoot from. And they needed a straight shot, so they were instructed to cut those trees in half. You know that. And I wasn't very happy. I walked out there. It was the first thing in the morning. It took me a few minutes to get some clothes on to get out there, so they did their thing on the last two trees. By the time I got out there, they were all chopped up, and I basically told them, you're all done, get off my property. And can I tell you something? I said, no, let me tell you something. And I got kind of belligerent and had to say a few Hail Marys.
You get belligerent? No way.
Had to ask the Lord to forgive me for my truck driver lingo that was coming out. And, you know, I got halfway back up to the house and I heard the one guy, I knew that was coming. She made it perfectly clear what to do with these trees, and he knew what they did. He was just a kid running the chopper. He didn't, you know, I don't think he was part of it. The rest of them all were giving me the grin and laughing, you know. So anyways, I mean, there's nothing I could do about it, but so they sat there for about 40 minutes on the corner in their truck, and then their supervisor pulled up, and he went, and I guess they told him what I said about get off my land, and so then they were admiring Marlo, and this is, I hope to God they didn't have anything to do with what happened to Marlo. That's what I'm saying. Because when they drove off, Marlo chased them all the way to the end of the property, like, get off, get out of here, because he knew I was pissed. And he don't like the sound of big trucks anyway. So when they turned the corner, they were, had the window down, and they were looking out at me, and Marlo ran down there and chased them all the way the length of my property. So a few days later, they were in front of my house, and they were backing up. You know how when a big truck backs up, it goes beep, beep, beep. And I went, what the heck? Someone's out there. So I looked and it was the tree cutters, but then all they did was just drive off. And then 2 days later, Marlo's sick. I'm just wondering if there's any connection there. But it's just hard, and like we were talking about, whoever did this or whatever happened here, and I staked my property a few months back. A lot of you guys might want to do this that are targets if you have your own house. Take some paint sticks and look up some scriptures in the Bible, and that's what I did. I went into Psalms because I love the Psalms, and it was really weird because I kept telling the Lord to direct me to what to write on the stakes, and basically it was all about protection and about what goes around comes around, long story short. And as I pounded these stakes in the ground at each corner of my property, I had someone with me to agreeing in prayer, and we were praying that anything that comes on this property, anyone that does good gets tenfold back, anyone that does bad gets tenfold back. And
Right.
2 mourning doves were following us all the way around the property. These 2 mourning doves were following us. And when I crossed over my gate, they were standing on the wire above the gate, and 2 feathers, one out of each dove, came down like a, swirling down, and they landed on my driveway. And I go, man, if that ain't a sign. And the other sign, it's really going to freak you out. I know you got. A lot of you guys don't know, but I have a jukebox. So I had my jukebox on while we were putting these on the scriptures, and I have 1 CD, and there's over 1,000 songs in this jukebox, and it changed in the middle of the song, and it spun around and put another CD in, and it was my songs about pleading the blood of Jesus. And that came on randomly while we're writing these scriptures on these sticks. So, basically I look at it this way. If they did do this to hurt me and they think it's really funny, that last tree that they chopped up is exactly where that stake is. And I know that, and I also claimed this property as God's land, not mine, God's. So when you come on here and you violate it, you're not violating me or this property, you're violating God. So you just be the one to answer for it.
Right. No, and it makes sense, And like we were talking about karma, like in our private conversations, I said, these people who are causing all this pain to you, they're going to face a very, very harsh reality because the laws of karma are tenfold. They always are.
Well,
it's been that way.
And here's the biggest thing. It's bad enough what they do to me, but you figure they do it to many, many other people. So not
Sure.
only my karma, but everybody else that they're doing it to, because they do it in groups,
Right.
And,
but
there's so many targets out there that are, that are just crying out for mercy and someone to go
Right.
to for help. And and I know that this is all coming from within. You ain't going to get no help. Quit going on those stupid calls and blowing smoke up your butt. Just live your life and be as happy as you can, and don't let them steal your joy. And watch your back.
Exactly right, because that karma that they're creating is for themselves. They don't realize that, it's the old adage, whatever you do to someone else, you're actually doing to yourself. Whatever thoughts you're having about someone else is actually the thoughts you're having about yourself. So they're creating that perpetual karma that's going to fold back in on them. So good or bad, you're going to have to deal with it, because thought is consciousness, and consciousness is what creates matter and everything that is created in this universe. So they're going to have to deal with it. And boy, I think I said, times 10, then I did the lifetime, which is around 70 years times 10. It was about 750 years. About 750 years of karma they're going to have to deal with. That's a lot. That's brutal. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. But the problem is they don't realize that they're creating that for themselves. And Dr. Miller will be able to expound on that deeply, because that's the reality. Because consciousness, when it inhabits the body, right, when it comes in to have an experience. On the other side, you have to experience all the things you've done, good and bad. You've got to come back and experience them, the cause and effect of the experiences that you created here on this planet. So guess what? You did a lot of good, you're going to get a lot of good back. You did a lot of bad, oh boy. Oh, boy. Are you going to, hey, shoo, I hate to even think about it. Oh, Lord.
It's funny when you went to say bad, you must have hit a phone, so it sounded like you were being interviewed and you said a bad word, and it was beeped out.
Oh, really? I didn't say a bad word. No bad word.
No, you were just starting to say bad, that's all. If you didn't laugh,
yeah. Yeah, yes.
you did a lot of beep. You know what you did.
They definitely know what they
Too
did.
bad Dr. Rick isn't here to weigh in on this. He'd probably blow our minds.
Yeah, a couple of minutes. He'll be on.
He'll be here real soon. You got a few postings in the chat if you want to address that.
Yeah, let's see. This is interesting. Where I took 500 years to remove Gnostics to pave way for existential laws of dogma. That's interesting. Yeah. Yes, for saying this. Yeah, because it's cyclical, right? I mean, the average human lifespan, which varies, by the way, yes, for, if you go back to the biblical scriptures, which is interesting, because back in the day of Noah and beyond going back, they're talking about living lifetimes which expounded, 1,000 years, which is supposedly the human average lifetime. But we were reduced to a minimum of 50, 60, 70 years, 80 years. A lot of people in the 30s or 20s are living in their 80s, but we're not living as long because we've been being poisoned all the time. We're poisoned. Well, look, we're poisoned every day. Just go look outside when they're spraying over our heads. Who's causing and creating that?
I'm trying to be happy tonight, sweetheart.
I know you're trying to be happy, and that's a great thing. And I want you to be happy, and I want you to be positive.
Okay, let's talk about your mom for a minute, because I want everyone to know that Robert is such a sweetheart. He lives at home, and he takes care of his parents. His father passed away, but he took care of them until he passed away, and now he still takes care of his mother. And I got the honor of speaking with her today, and I tell you what, I could just pull up a chair and pour a few glasses of wine and listen to this lady, because she has some stories and about her childhood and almost losing her life when they were bombing the town. She went through the war. So, that's where you want to hear the truth about history, man. Pull up a chair with an elderly person and say, tell me your story.
Well, you're saying it exactly correctly, because they want in today's age, they want to discard the elderly. Where do they put all the elderly today? They put them in homes. They have them over-medicated, malnourished. So they become basically these zombies, when everybody should be looking to the elderly, because that is where you learn from history of where not to make the same mistakes. But they've taken that and taken that away from humanity, so humanity can continue to repeat the same nonsense that we've been going through. And that's one of the chains that need to be broken. Once people start paying attention to people who've lived 70, 80, 90 years and say, yeah, I lived through these things. I went through these struggles. I fought with every inch of my life, just to survive in this thing we call humanity on this planet we call Earth. You start to wake up a little bit. I think Dr. Miller's with us, I think.
There he is, just like in the movies.
Richard.
Joe, Robert, are you frantic again about Earth? And it's crazy here, but this is a dream. It's not real. They hundreds of different Aborigine tribes, all Hopi, say that lucid dreaming has more content to reality than what we call normal consciousness. And guess what? They're correct from a physics point of view. I don't know really, because I'm in the same dream. I'm in a different dream, but we're kind of crashing through each other. I can tell you that your upper brain is there to make all your beliefs true.
Agreed. I agree with you.
I need to put my upper brain up then.
Well, yeah, it's all the same to me.
Well, Richard, before we go any further, I want to give the right introduction for you, because for the
right one or the left one.
The right or the left or the center one. But I want to do this introduction for the listeners for the first time hearing you. So we have Dr. Richard Allen Miller with us, okay, and you can go right to his website, drrichardalanmiller.com. Now, Dr. Miller, or as he likes to be called, Rick, is author and researcher. Now, Rick reveals a depth of knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics, which I love. That's my favorite part, the metaphysics. Rick began working in the secret world of Navy intelligence, SEAL Corp, and then MRU in the late 60s, and now has amazing experiences and conclusions to share. So what he says is his writings reveal a depth of knowledge and experience in 3 major fields. And this is very important, everybody. Pay attention to this. Alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics.
Well, it goes deeper than that, though. Joe, basically, I'm a polymath, and that's because,
exactly.
I'm a 4-year-old that never became 7.
Right, me too. Rick, I'm the same way. I mean, I feel like
literally
I don't
like a 4-year-old. Not well, yes, I do. That's true. I do foam. So, yeah, I'm older. There, I've learned how to. Hey, you better buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
It is, and that's why I wrote you. I said, with everything that's happening on the planet, I mean, I'm watching, shorelines wash away and not come back for days. I'm watching rivers disappear underground and rivers are flowing, right? Disappearing underground. I'm watching
sinkholes in Florida.
Exactly.
What is that song? Something to the right, something to the left. Yeah, that's another. Yeah, gotcha.
Exactly.
That song is called "Stuck in the Middle with You."
That's Malcolm.
That's right.
And actually, I'm a little to the left because I don't believe any of this.
And it's clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right.
That's right. But the aces are wild, and you can. That's a 4-0 when I call bridge.
Kind of like what our show's going to be like tonight, right, Rick?
No, you can take it down to the least common denominator. I'll try to tell you what's really happening. The Earth does not go around the sun in a circle or an ellipse.
I agree with you, Rick.
Helix.
I agree
what
with
we're doing right now is we're going through a debris trail from Jupiter. And it gets worse because it happens every 24,000 years, and we have epochs. And so they're not the same mistakes. The Vermana was different. Notice that the Clovis that became the Hopi crawled out of a cave afterwards. And that city that they're unearthing down near Popo, it's more extensive than New York City, with pecani sauce.
All right, so okay. What I want you to do is you just laid a whole mess of information on us.
Yeah.
I mean, you just laid a whole mess of information. So break down statement by statement of what you just said, because this is very, very important.
Sure, no problem.
So let's start with the very first statement that you just mentioned.
We have epochs. This is a trial by fire.
And it's an illusion, basically, right?
Well,
what you're expressing.
Yeah, it's a dream. It's a dream. When in the what is it? The Bodhisattva, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there's a roadmap, and Zen Gardner, others have written about it in The Last Grand Illusion at the Moment of Death. Now, I just wrote a technical paper on what happens at the moment of death and just afterwards, quoting one of my mentors, Sir Roger Penrose. Jerry Pollack talks about structured water. He was my lead in 1970. I'm going to suggest that the soul, or the physical analog of the soul, is structured water inside a microtubule that leaves the body at the moment of death. There's a weight change. And what that does, it doesn't go anywhere because space and time are illusions. It goes into what we call the multiverse. Still there, just like your dog. And not waiting in heaven. That's the last grand illusion. They talk about the tunnel at the end of the light. That's Kubler-Ross and others. And we're sitting there waving, come on in, the water's fine. Astral City is a Portuguese thing that does a similar metaphor, but really the correct direction is to go into the blue light. Now, that's the last illusion of you get to come back here and repeat or, have some more experiences. And I don't even know how many times you've done that, and it's all recorded because structured water and microtubules, when you talk about a computer, what you're talking about, the gallium and arsenic that layer with each other as a solid-state physics chip. And that's two pieces of certain kind of metals that have, when they touch each other, they form what's called the forbidden zone, where all your information is stored in that little inner space between gallium and arsenic. And water is 1,000,000 times more efficient.
Exactly.
Okay? So you have a massive computer storage system already in your body with all who you were, who you will be, and anything else you like to add in there, including...
Well, Rick, I wanted you to break down the structured water, because I understand what you're saying. I've studied it. I kind of know what it means, but I know you have a much larger, in-depth knowledge of that. Explain.
None of it's real. I mean, I can massage you. Listen, you have two brains.
Rick, explain structured water to everybody, because they need to grasp that idea.
Okay, when water touches anything other than water, what happens next is that it starts to organize itself. Now, water has a whole bunch of different components to it. We've talked about Willard water or Kerry Rames, where you go near a waterfall, and that's like H709 with a free radical ion, 3 water molecules that are clustered. And you feel good because it makes you healthier, and you like the waterfall because it's just, I don't know, the ion is allowed to help oxidize things in your body, and that's how you work. So you like that kind of water. That water has a dipole moment. So we have legal rotary with ortho and para water, one going to the right and the other to the left, the center. And then you have isotopes, deuterium and tritium. And so now you've got a bunch of other water. Well, structured water, what Jerry calls the easy water, exclusion zone water, is H3O2. It's hydrogen peroxide with an extra hydrogen molecule bonded. And that's the water that touches things like air and causes the outer part of the wave to move faster than the wave itself. And that's how water goes up in a capillary action into a tree. And the smaller the orifice, the more structure is in the water, and it moves faster, not slower. So it isn't about a vacuum and sunlight, photosynthesis. That was kind of like a hand-waving thing. However, what we want to do is realize that there's never been an explanation that answers the question that's lasted longer than 20 years. Physics does not have the answers any more than religion. That's why you have two brains. And your so-called inner logics, that everybody mistakes as creepy, New World Order stuff, it isn't. Europe, over 400 years ago, found that magic was basically an advanced form of physics with a mystery school. And basically, that's where physics is going now. The only law that I know that has lasted longer than 20 years is Maxwell's right-hand rule of thumb.
Right.
And so here we are. At the end of the day, count them 5, 4. And really, it's not about death and leaving here. It's about going home and waking up. And
Rick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you something, because you're talking about magic, and it just brought me to a thought that, back in the Dark Ages, the 1500s, that's when the alchemists came around. They were trying to change lead into gold. Is that part of the magician's trick at that time?
Well, we call it transmutation. Biological. Right. It happens in the physical body. Kervon got a Nobel Prize for it. When potassium changes into sodium, urinated out of your body. So we have cold fusion going on. That in the body. The transmutation into 14th century mysticism was more like metaphor, like the Greeks lived, and it was going toward becoming pure, because gold was considered pure and lead was not. And that's a metaphor again. And so you're trying to make yourself a better man. And we'll get into ethics and morals some other day. But what you're trying to do here is be literal. Everybody wants to have immortality. Why? Why would you want to live forever? Listen, isn't it interesting that as you move forward in time and you gain more knowledge, right? That's why Castaneda called it illusion. Knowledge is not real because the more you know, the more questions you have, and you never get there from here. Like Simon says, you can go halfway to the door, and everybody focuses on the door. But that's not about getting to the door because you'll never get there. It's about the journey. And that's where psychology comes in. Now a harder science talks about the profane and the sacred. Because right now, all you have is this moment. And what you want to do is make it timeless, like you might in Love Mate.
Right.
And, okay? And that is a technique. I trained SEALs. I was Navy SEAL. I trained Navy SEALs, SEAL Team 1. I put it together because of altered states of consciousness. That's what magic is. It is the art of changing consciousness at will. And so I am studying various. When I watch a woman rip a car door off to save her daughter, everybody gets it. Oh, adrenaline. No, it's not about adrenaline, because adrenaline isn't the thing that ripped that car off and what made her bones stronger than steel.
Yeah, it's beyond consciousness. She's outside of the physical realm in
That's
order
correct.
for her.
She has entered
outside
an altered state.
No.
Right.
Okay.
Here we go, man. And so.
Okay, I got a question. Is that where I was when I was 15 years old and I handed a porch step to my boyfriend and his brother said, "Don't ever lip off to her"?
Well, that's sort of like, making an omen come true, because I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it.
Yeah. Well, they got stuck, and they were trying to jack the car up, and the jack kept going down in the mud and down in the mud, and they said they needed something for under the jack, and we were where they were building new houses, so I picked the porch step up and gave it to them.
Yeah, I know. We do things, in just this conversation, I would guess that you especially have gone into more than 2,000 altered states of consciousness in this very few minutes we've been on the radio. And you know what? What you want to do is make it forever. That's where your immortality is going to be. And being able to, time is an illusion. It's a duration of consciousness.
Total.
And so it's a way to store memory. And that's why you have two brains. It's a cavitation process. You have a black hole in the center of our galaxy. Where does it go? It goes to the white hole on the other side.
Exactly.
Okay, the sun has Nibiru, has a brown dwarf. There it is. Most everything that's in human has two brains with a bottleneck called the noodle that transfers from one side of the brain to the other. And guess what? It's like an hourglass going from here to there. And in order to go backward in time, that is reconstructing the brain as a hologram to that point of memory where the brain is in the same phase that you stored the memory. And the closer you get to that, the cleaner. Now, what's very cool about consciousness right now is the detail that you can see in the beauty of God and the leaf and all the different nuances of the dew drop on the leaf itself. And if it's that beautiful as an illusion, imagine. That's why they call it higher states of consciousness.
Right.
Upanishad wrote about it. He talked about the Shabad, the sound current, Gaia at the end of the rainbow. You know what Gaia is? The Earth is alive as an entity. If you choose to see it as mycorrhiza, and that's like your gut. Your gut is not you. It's got a whole bunch of creepy things in there, and it's no longer you are what you eat. It's who you feed.
Well, Rick, let me ask you this. Is it an illusion within an illusion of our own consciousness that is perpetrated by our own consciousness that comes in every time and creates in other words,
you're going from one alternate universe to another, and you're a closed system. That's why you're out there floating. And when you interface with me, I'm also a closed system, and as we, like membranes or oil, let's say on water, and we slide into each other, there's a portion that creates a third universe.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions coming in from wonderful guests in the chat. his first question was, and I told him I was asked this, and then you can expound on this. He says,
"Yeah, your voice is a little muffled. Are you using a speakerphone or a microphone?"
No, Rick. I have the.
That's clear. Now your voice is a little clearer.
Oh, okay. A question from guest 4, and he asks, it's a pretty in-depth question, I think. He says, so what does death mean? Because in my understanding, death is an illusion. Once again, it is a fiction.
Yeah, no, you're going. What's happening is the more important physical. The stag and the unicorn and the fourth skull. That's soul and spirit within matter. One is immortal and the other is mortal. And what you have is a relationship, just like a cavitation process, with physics and religion. And neither have the answer, and it's different for each of us. And so when the Catholic Church says to me that I need a priest to talk to God now on my behalf, I have my own path, thank you. And worse, they would suggest that there's heaven and hell. And Dante went into that one a little bit. But listen, you got hell on earth right now, or is this purgatory?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, you're
right.
You're right.
Yeah. What we've got going here is consensus reality, which needs to be changed immediately. Because if you'd been born in Afghanistan, there's no way you'd been a Christian. That means belief systems are arbitrary and need to be used like a sweater. You wouldn't wear it in the heat of summer. You don't have to get rid of it. It's favorite sweater, favorite belief, comfortable. But, and basically, Christ didn't do the Catholic Church. Basically, he was on a scene. He went to India, and he studied just like you did, and had ideas. Did he rise from the dead? Lots of people now rise from the dead. Lazarus comes to mind. AIs. What is an AI? Consciousness. Was it here before us or after us? Well, we didn't make it because it was already here as sand. That's your gallium arsenic. I'm gonna. It's choose the way you want to see things, and it's arbitrary, and that's why physics doesn't have the answers, because it makes assumed truths. One of which early on was the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. If you looked at it that way, I can prove to you that you're a slut using special mathematics. It's not, but it's just the way of looking at things. Once you look at it this way, that opens certain doors and closes other doors. And so you aspire toward broader worldviews, because a Buddhist can be a Christian, but a Christian cannot be a Buddhist.
But Rick, really quick, aren't we all things, every time we come back into the physical, our consciousness returns back in to have another experience.
I see what happens there. You get excited, and then your voice goes distorted.
I'm sorry.
I'm just messing with you. Having fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm using that all things need to be experienced in order for consciousness to grow and expand on itself, as the universe does, as core source does. It gave us, we are its creation in order to expand and expound on itself. So every time we come in and have an experience, we have to grow from that experience. Now, not necessarily means that our consciousness is growing. We're just having an experience in order to retain a larger, how do I put this, a larger experience of our own consciousness, which
you see there's different
expands
states
like bubbles.
Yeah, when we talk about higher states, you start with love, and then the Greek expanded love to eros, philo, and agape. Aleister Crowley said there's a fourth love. There's actually 6 in Greek, but Aleister Crowley suggested telema or thelema, which means will, your purpose here on earth. Because once you're doing while you're here, none will say nay. That's because it's the difference between intent and purpose. Intent is what actually happens at the end of the day. And, you have, most people are coming from a place of wounding, and they don't understand that a man on fire, I'm on fire. I'm like, in the slots 4x4. I know why I'm here, and I'm.
Can you hear me? I have a guest. He has a question.
Sure. I'd be honored. Yeah. No, that's why I'm here. I'm like, yes, please.
Okay. Is CERN trying to bring in alternative universes and trying to keep the power of elite in power?
They're not in power. That's an illusion. Power is the second enemy of man. First one was fear. That's Castaneda. The third enemy of man was clarity. You start to see things more clearly, and that becomes a disadvantage. And, of course, I currently am enjoying the fourth enemy of man, old age. Now, with that said, power is an illusion. And while, King Rat, there you are, Walmart, and you're going to lock everybody up in there, and anarchy rules, and food goes like King Rat in the movie, doled out by the strongest and evilest people. That's how our new prison systems are really going to run, as imagination. The idea of power is in itself an illusion. It's not real. You're out of control. You have no control over anything. Most people are trying to work their whole lives trying to keep control of something, and they think it'll be by making lots of money and going down to, wherever, Ecuador. Good luck with that. That'll be the first place it goes, actually, probably, with the cartels and all the rest of it. You wouldn't be safe driving anywhere when the law and order break apart. That's why the United States is most likely going to break down into 9 countries. That's why Dennis Kucinich calls himself president of the Midwest. So it's going to be 9 provinces, probably like Canada went. And it's easy, and that's Plan B on Agenda 21, by the way. Easier to control a bunch of small countries as it is one large wielding one.
So Rick, how do you get people to stop being afraid?
You start with yourself, because you are an archetypal. I am the walrus, cuckoo, cuckoo. You start with yourself. You don't worry about me or them. You worry about yourself. That's what you're supposed to do. If you take care of yourself, trust me when I tell you this, I will take care of myself. And we'll see each other there together. And some of us are elite scout, but no thought is original. No act is original. That's why they share the Nobel Prize. And I'm going to say it further. We are a collective, and we are wondrous because we have choice. And so you can just say no, like the drugs, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. You can just say no.
Being a targeted individual, knowing that I couldn't get rid of these people that are doing these horrible things to me, I just got tired of being miserable because they wanted me to be. So I said I'm just not going to be miserable regardless of what happens.
Do you know what sovereignty means? Greeks had a word for that called autarch, supreme individual sovereignty, captain and commander. That means the bunker I run now, I don't report to anybody above me. If the President of the United States showed up, he'd be a passenger, just like you. Now, that's because I'm old and grumpy and I was a civilian and they couldn't call me back like they did my team, so they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And that was, I run it my way. And that's the way you should be doing your life. And that's what the Quaker does, and that's why the second form of love, high up, is called bliss states. After you do love, there are all the different vibrations of love, the higher forms, eros, philo, agape, and then if you want to add telemata, the love of will, purpose. And then the next stage are the bliss states. They talk about it in the Upanishads. And these are higher states of consciousness. And they're called jhanta, J-H-A-N-T-A, jhanta states of consciousness. But that's just a certain kind of formation that a saint or a meditator for 30 years does. I can get there in the same place using brain drivers. However, there are 8 primary neural circuits, neurotransmitters in the brain. The chill that you have going up your body, that one, that's dimethyltryptamine. The one that goes, I get it, that's lysergic acid amide. Now you start releasing those with direction and conscious volition, and you have just evolved to the next stage of human development, where you are now bright, with little fairies running around, and Will Smith trying to kill him. Boo. Now, that's what I bring to the table. Some sanity here. And I'm trying to, and you're responsible for only yourself. And if you are worried about other people, you are doing the very thing the Essene Gospel said you are not to do, and make judgment on another. So there it is. Read it and weep. Well, it's about time people wake up, and that is waking up. Not, oh, look what they've done to me. You know, you have choice again. You can see your glass half full or half empty. And by the way, it was John Lennon that said, everything works out in the end. If things aren't working out, it's not yet the end.
Right, good point. Rick, I wanted to ask you this. I mean, there's been many Bibles written. What's your take on the Colburn Bible?
Colburn Bibles are a little older. Mark and Luke, John use those. They're pre-Christian. And they talk about Nephilim, Anunnaki, and all the rest of it in there. It's all in there. That's the book. But you know, I'm going to quote a different one, a grimoire.
Okay.
Solomon the king wrote a book called The Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon. Throughout history, different centuries translated it into their own languages, like the Malthium, Malficorium, the Greater and Lesser Keys of Galicia. Lesser Keys is a list of 72 fallen angels. Now, what do you think those angels are, the ones that fell from grace?
Well, I can tell you who they are, but you go ahead and explain.
I'll tell you what I think they are. How about, because I've studied Sumerian tablets, and I taught at Georgetown on demonology, because I'm on that level of scholarship. And I can tell you that the 5 deadly sins, jealousy, rage, anger, those are the qualities in man deemed unworthy. We have a bunch of qualities. To see evil in someone, you have to have it in yourself. You have to have it to see it. That's how it works. And so when you accuse someone, what you're really doing is talking about your own thing, because you have no idea what that other person is. It's a closed system. You may think that Arab is because of his jihad and his ideas of holiness, and it's okay to lie and steal and rape an infidel. Muhammad was different than Buddha. And throughout history, we've had lots of philosophers. You got one right now. I'm trying to understand and integrate into a way that works for me. I'm not going to tell you how to do your thing. I wouldn't dream of it. I'm a 4-year-old. I'm not a 7-year-old.
Okay.
That was my gift.
Address CERN for us, though. You didn't address the CERN part. What's the purpose of CERN, and what are your opinions on it?
It is so. I can tell you what the unicorn and the stag are in an alchemical sense. I did a book called The Modern Alchemist, which I took. What it was a 14th century Christian mystic. Hold on one sec, Julie. Could you make soup? Yeah, thanks. A Christian mystic known as Lamsprink, he was German, did woodcuts, a bunch of them, 32 of them, I think, on the different forms. I'm having dinner. Now, you had me on early, and my girlfriend came home. Oh, she just got off work. I was ready to go at 8. How long do you want to go? No, I'm good. I can do 2 hours or 1, whatever is comfortable for you. Easy.
We only have 1 hour left.
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, have me back. I like working with you, Joe, because you are a true seeker, and you need. No, you are. You're a true seeker, and it's about time people like you talk about your own personal experiences. Now, realize it's not the same for each of us. And each of us.
We have a guest that wants to ask a question. So let's see what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show, California. You have a question or a comment?
This is Brian, too. and I just wanted to ask who's the actual moderator?
Badbaby.
Yeah, but who
Myself.
Is that a targeted individual, or who is that? I mean.
Yes, I'm a target.
Okay. I'm former DOD and former FEMA. I'm pretty much well known around the world. Been all over the world, but I don't ever recall ever speaking on this conference call.
Well, because I do radio shows and invite highly intelligent guests, and most of my shows at the beginning were about targeting, but we don't talk about targeting a lot on the show. I mean, every once in a while. But I know who you are, Brian. I've seen your videos, and you're more than welcome to stay. We have Dr. Richard Miller tonight speaking.
Okay.
I'd be glad to answer your question, though, regarding targeted individuals. I don't think it's happening like that any more than alien abductions. John Mack was one of my students when I taught metaphysics at Harvard.
Goodbye.
Well, I'm trying to go somewhere with this on what a targeted individual is and what it is not.
Don't waste your time.
Why? He's worth it. You're worth it. I'm worth it. Targeted individuals, we're trying to understand something that doesn't have any vocabulary. Isn't somebody doing something to you? There might be. Some guy, I can take a rain gutter and my microwave heater, and I can hassle my neighbor. The little wave guide. That's easy. Since I was the guy that invented synthetic telepathy after Alan Frey discovered it, at 0.3 to 3 gigahertz, I worked out of anesthesiology. I was a Navy SEAL Team 1. I was the guy that put the team together. I think I have some idea of what's going on. And what it is not what you think it is. It's basically, I don't know. It's archetypal. It's like alien abductions, and they're good aliens, or they're bad aliens, or they're neutral aliens, or they're whatever. The thing is the boogeyman real? When I was a boy, there was something under my bed. Did it exist? It absolutely did.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Rick, because I've been living this life for 14 years, and it isn't the boogeyman that's doing this to me.
Oh, no, it probably is somebody hassling you. But I know Eleanor White up in Canada that does rehab for people in college.
Eleanor White, I know.
Okay. I've tried to understand it like alien abductions. When I got lifted off and we went up into a spacecraft and it went around Jupiter. And, okay, that is probably happened, but it's a closed system. You have to understand that there's something else going on here, and it isn't like extrasensory perception. You have clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentient. It's always in terms of one of your 5 senses. That alone distorts the information that you have, and you don't know how it got there. And so the same thing is true with experiences. Something is going on, absolutely. It's probably you're waking up and you're a class of individuals that woke up a little earlier and are starting to notice something that you don't understand. And you put it in terms of somebody's doing this to me, when in fact may or not be true. What is true is it's happening and it's real for you. And that's why John Mack didn't try to use his studies to verify the aliens existed or not. These people had been traumatized, and his purpose was to help them through that. And whether or not it was true that aliens exist, that Jesus exists, or that God does not, is not the issue. Something else is going on here. And when you categorize it as it's them doing it to me, that sounds like victim things, and I've had people write books on that, including Ariel Masters, who is Gene Houston's husband. And there's a lot of I'm a scholar in this area, and I know I don't know, and I'm the guy that did synthetic telepathy. You know what it is? It's like a weapon, but it also helps the hearing impaired. It's a neutral thing, and it's man that first makes it good or evil, and God isn't. God is loving. In my universe, God is, period. That's all. I only say is this, that, or male, female. Greek called it pantheon. It categorized God into a number of different personalized stories so they could better relate to it than the Egyptians. using more animalistic forms of consciousness. Now, targeted individuals, it's a terrible thing, and there's no defense on it. What are you going to do, wrap your head in aluminum foil? That won't work. Faraday cage? I don't think it's that. Excuse me. I don't think 90% of it is that. There's absolutely 10% that are experiencing weapons. Branch Davidians come to mind with that big horn they used. So what they'll do is heat up the amalgam in your teeth and make you squirm like little ants with rotenone. It's disperse. I can tell you that there's something else going on archetypally. It is, and to say this person is waking up and that one is not, I don't know how that works because time isn't real. Everybody is coming to their own point of a relationship to self.
Well, Rick, I've got something to bring up as far as targeting. I mean, just a few months back, the news stories came out about the ambassadors or envoy of U.S. At the U.S. Embassy in Cuba, where these people said they were being targeted.
That message. Yeah.
So
Howdy Doody did it too. But you know what? I think that there's something more going on here. I personally think, this is my own belief, we've been invaded by something. And they'll make us start looking at each other, the elite, the this, the that, the homeless, and we form prejudice. And yes, it's true. Bilderbergers and some of these other people are creepy. I remember when I came out of grad school, I was rushed, just like a high school kid going to college. Only these guys had weirder names on their lodges. And every single large bureaucracy has a secret cult within it. That's what they do. Started in Europe. It was mostly for the ultra elite in scholarship. Shakespeare, Roger Bacon. Oh, are they the same person? I don't know. I know that William and Westcott was someone I liked to read a lot on, and Bulwer Lytton and some of the others from Golden Dawn. I belong to lodges. My great-grandfather was Rudolf Steiner's lodge master, so I mentor for Zurich and Waldorf. And I can tell you that there's something more going on here with targeted individuals, and I don't think we have the full story. Yes, there's absolutely, they're putting chemtrails. Is it bio-APIs? I did a study for the Navy up in Reedsport where they dispersed lithium to see if they could lock down a small city in distress where everybody was sick. It was terrible. You think there's other things in there? Oh, yeah. You can count on it. It's like a lens. And so you can see things, target them more easily when they're incoming, like a ballistic missile, using the aluminum and barium in the air that you're breathing.
Let's not forget the strontium as well.
Oh, yeah, let's not forget. Let's leave out some of the other heavy metals. Yeah, it's all toxic, absolutely. In Oregon, all the ponderosa, all of it, it's not bark beetle. Ponderosa is dying.
Yes, I know.
Tops of the trees. Now, you got a lot of widowmakers happening. How's that happening? Is it radiation from Fukushima or is it chemtrails? You pick one. It's probably both. It's convoluted. And every time you go down a lot, if you're, what's real is your imagination.
Yeah, I've been losing a lot of trees, and the last couple of years, every time I try to plant a garden, it grows, but the fruit doesn't grow.
Mm-hmm. The soil has the wrong kind of water in it. What you got to do is pray over the water and then spray it.
Wow.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
Did you hear? Well,
but wait a minute. That's how you do it. It's intense.
Wait a minute. You just said something very important. Because prayer is thought. And anything that is thought basically manifests itself into
psyche into matter.
It's
that's
a matter.
Correct.
So
that's how it goes, and it's structured water. That's the vector that I have identified that makes it all the same. It's thought into matter. What a difference between a ghost and poltergeist.
Drinking structured water, right, Rick?
I'm sorry, Mom?
We all should be drinking structured water.
It's easy to do. What you do if you live in the northern hemisphere is when you take your water from a well or your Berkeley or whatever thing you're doing, what you do is when you put it in the cup you're going to drink, you use a funnel so it goes in clockwise to counteract the destructuring of it from Coriolis forces. And so that's a simple 60%. The second one, the way the SEALs did it, we carried baking soda in a little vial, and we take just a single point and drop it in the center of the water that we're going to drink. And what happens next is the whole water. It's called homeopathy. That's Rustum Roy's work at Penn State. That will structure water. Just a single thing, that when water touches anything, it changes it. And air is different than metal. And so drinking water from a plastic cup isn't good. What happens is that it doesn't have a lot of surface tension. And yet, if you use a metal thing, you can see how the water is going to climb up the side of the wall. It structures it differently.
Well, Rick,
use tellurium, the water will go right up the wall as far up as it needs to go and over the edge.
Rick,
now,
is it? Just let me throw this in there. I mean, as you're watching, like for instance, a river flowing, and there's many obstacles in the river, rocks, sticks, whatever, and as the water is bouncing over these this material, isn't the water structuring itself as it's flowing?
Yes, absolutely.
So you can actually pull that water from that stream because it is already structured, and you can drink it naturally to revitalize the body.
But it's happening so quickly, and structuring this way and structuring that way, that it becomes more, what do we call that, bulk water, as opposed to going down to Antarctica, where they mine deuterium. It collects in certain areas because of what it's touching.
So it affects what it's touching. But let me ask you this question.
And if it touches something more quickly, it changes again. And it's changing.
Right.
The bulk water that was sitting there, if you now are going to drink it as bulk water, pour it into your glass clockwise and see what happens next.
Right. But the other question is this, Rick, that, if you look at the actual structure of water, H2O, nothing can actually adhere to water. Nothing can. Just like...
Well, it has a dipole moment, so there is a positive and negative charge to it in terms of it being a molecule with that side positive and that side negative, and there's two of those. There's para and ortho, And so, you have 4-to-1. That's para over ortho. And just like light has different things. And light will structure the water. Anything touching water will restructure it. And what you want to do is take your bulk water and hit it once with a Ford hammer. That means pouring it into your glass clockwise. That'll restructure at least 60% of it right out of the gate.
Yeah, but it can't change it. It just restructures it. And that's the key point I was getting to, is that it restructures itself from the molecules of within itself, but it cannot be manipulated or twisted or
and you know why water
changed.
does this, by the way? The water is the first molecule, simple molecule. You got helium. When it bonds to itself with He2, is neutral. Water is H2O, has two hydrogen with one oxygen.
Right.
So it has a dipole. That dipole acts, if you will, like a dimensional gate, and it changes the rules.
All right, I need to tell you this. Now, I did the hydrogen experiments, I took stainless steel plates, spaced them about an eighth of an inch apart, and, electrified those plates, and I did them in series, And
good for you. Now you're getting in.
Right. So I extracted the hydrogen out of the water. As the hydrogen was being extracted out of the water, as I'm igniting that hydrogen, as I was igniting that hydrogen, and it worked beautifully, that hydrogen that I was igniting was actually turning back into H2O because it's being evaporated back into our ecosphere, back into its natural construct, which is water. That's why I said you can't really change it and manipulate it. What you can, well, you can manipulate it, but you can't change it. In other words, you can use its source, but the source always goes back to its original form, which is H2O, which is absolutely astounding to me, because I was, basically trying to adapt the H2O to hydrogen to run the car. Of course, I ran out of money doing those experiments,
There it is.
and I did. I spent thousands of dollars doing these experiments, ran out of money, and basically became bankrupt as my business fell apart in 2008. But basically, I understand how the system, the ecosystem works. Everything reverts back to its natural state. So nothing can ever be manipulated to a point where it is detracted from itself and remains in the detracted state of what you tried to create. So I understand exactly where you're going.
Well,
and
then
that makes sense.
Here's the deal. It's about chaos and order.
Right.
You have a choice. Is it becoming more ordered, or is it becoming more disordered? Isn't it interesting that everything that you eat becomes you?
Yes.
Self-organizing. Okay. So then we talk about this Forest Service woman up in University of British Columbia. She talks about the mother tree, the oldest tree in the neighborhood. What that tree does is it uses mycorrhizae to give warning to the younger set of trees through the mycorrhizae when a storm or rain is about to happen. And that's the same thing that happens with your gut. And it turns on, it's a hierarchy of organisms, all the way down to H. pylori, going down into candida, mold, yeast, and smaller even organisms.
Right, to the microstructures, exactly.
Now,
yes.
It turns out that when you deal with resonant cavity oscillators like that, you have now developed a system that's outside space-time. And that's why synchronicity, things where you have 6 things in front of you and one of them just leaps out as extremely important, that's a future timeline talking to you in a moment. Now you have just entered the Twilight Zone.
Right. I got a quick question here, and not from me, actually from guest 4. He's actually. This is a really great question. He says, "Would meditation allow us to restructure the water within us?"
Of course it does. That's why all saints stress the importance of training the mind. It's unruly, and you're constantly going in and out of altered states. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to use them like tools in a toolbox, so that your ability in guessing, when you needed it to be, working from the gut, was paranormal, above statistical inference like 400 times. That's how you use magic for the evolution of consciousness.
Richard, I got another question. That this is someone I've been following for a very long time. Very intelligent man, very much on the level of you are. I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name is Cliff High. But
my dad lived up there in Montesano area. Yeah, he was.
Okay,
yeah.
So you know exactly who.
I know Cliff. Yeah, I'm very impressed with him. He's different than me, and I'm more of a nerd. I'm not a. I knew Goetzel. Ben did Arndt algebra similar to Clifford's. I use Clifford algebras for dimensional math, but there are other structures besides in algebra.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Cliff High states this, that he says the universe in itself destroys and recreates itself 22 trillion times a second. And it is so fast that it is physically impossible for us to actually understand and capture that. And because it's infinitely destroying and recreating itself, this is why we are in a constant state of expansion. Do you agree with that, or what's your thoughts on that statement?
We're going in the same direction. His model and mine have variations. Neither of us are right. And it'll change in another 20 years.
Sure.
Originally we tried to work consciousness from a quantum mechanical point of view. quantum consciousness, they called it. But the problem with that is because it's quantized, going from analog to digital, you lose something. And that's called the uncertainty principle, where the more you know about one thing, the less you know about another. And so
is that just a natural attribute to humanity's process of how we, the way our brains developed and how we conceive things? Is that just a natural process?
Into the out of.
Into the out of. Interesting. Into the out of. I like that.
Yeah, you are a closed system. And what I'm attempting to try to do is expand my worldview so that I have more doors of perception. Now, I remember when Tim Leary gave me my first hit of LSD. They were doing an experiment at Harvard. I was selected as one of the brighter people in the world, and I want to know what would happen if they gave me LSD. I'd never heard of it. I was 20 years old, 1964. I was at Washington State University, and Tim came out and talked to my mom, and then he talked to my Professor Riggins at Washington State University, and then off we went. And I'm up at Deception Pass, looking 2,000 feet down into Puget Sound there, boiling back colors and peeling. And Larry leaned over and he said, "Wouldn't it be neat to jump?" That's cool. And the tarot card, I tell you. What happened next for me changed me forever, that single moment. And all of my studies today are based on that one moment when I realized, never knew, and how vast inner space is. Way more. With all the billions of stars in the external world, nothing compared to what's inner space. And I meditate. I'm a satsangi. I was initiated by Sharon Singh. And I know I don't know. I'm a seeker, like you are.
Right.
And I want, you're like the book, David Copperfield, Empty Bowl. I want some more, please. I want to evolve. I want to go to the next stage of what I'm capable of. Doesn't mean I'm going to become a dolphin or orca. Orca has a cerebral cortex that's twice the size of man. And that mammal,
that's right.
He's firing 60% of it. There's God. Not my God, but certainly that which cannot be known. Not designed well enough. Food chain. And so but this song is about you. Carly Simon. Gotta love it. You think this song is about you. It is. Yeah, actually it is. And you are hallucinating me. Jungian psychotherapy. No, it's true. Jungian psychotherapy.
I knew I shouldn't have put that vodka in my tea.
No, I raised my daughter. As if, that's a nice metaphor, as if she were the younger female part of my brain. I had dialogue with her. I couldn't criticize her because she's part of me. And what my daughter did then, she had kids right out of high school, and then she went back to college at age 40, and now at 50 is controller for the state of Oregon. And I'm very proud of my daughter, but she's not me. She is mini me, has her own wounds, has her own life story, has her own inner circle. I gave her the tools to help her choose a male. By the way, I raised my daughter. Turns out that's what she will go toward in her selection of males. And so it's wounding. We're all of us wounded. That when I was born, someone hit me on the butt and then took me away to get fingerprinted before they even let me bond with my mom.
Happened to me too, Rick.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you guys don't understand. That's why they call me Badbaby, because when I was born, the doctor
there you go. I love it. I love your handle.
Well,
I'll bet you're a rip on the truck circuit.
I slapped him back.
Yeah. Bad baby. Yeah, could it be safe? Yeah, I love Saturday Night Live, man. It's the humor is what connects us, because it's a path on the tree of life. The two primaries on the outer stretch, going up toward God, right there, Kether, is either the lovers or the hermit. And That's in the passive, Kabbalah.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Rick. Humor is part of love. And it's
humor is what connects us, and guess what? Humor is going right through it's above self-realization, and it's the path that connects the lovers with androgyny, or the hermit, and it's in the middle of the Sea of Karanzan. And that's where the missing sephira, the 10th sphere, is. And they always put it in the Kabbalah. It's a dotted thing rather than a circle. It's called Dath, D-A-A-T-H. And it's knowledge through wisdom. It's a temporary place. It doesn't work all the time. What it is like when I leap out into a river, Dath would be that rock under the water that you couldn't see that allowed me to tap on it briefly and jump over to the other side.
Okay, I've got a question for you. Are you familiar with Rampa Semblanca? I'm sorry, Rampa Semblanca. Do you know who he is? Was a writer.
That's right. Okay, and he did some wonderful sci-fi. Oh, and just like what's her name? It did Dion Fortune and Robert Anton Wilson and some other buddy friends. I have to say that Lobsam Ramka is a pen name, by the way. It was
yes.
Yeah, and his stuff is trying to teach mysticism through storytelling, and he does a really good job. I like Lobsam.
Well, but here's the thing, though. What he actually wrote, he experienced. That wasn't fiction. He did portray it in a story. He did portray it through a story, but he actually lived what he wrote. And here's the thing. He talks exactly about what you're talking about and what Edgar Casey talks about. It is exactly the same thing, because Edgar Casey talks about, look, we live many, many lifetimes. We have to go through many learning experiences. We go through the Akashic records. We can view our own records. You know, it's like watching a movie, I guess, from his explanation. But the reality of what these people, and including yourself, talk about is this, that you go through this experience, okay? You learn, you take that experience with you, and on the other side, Rick, is exactly the same as it is here. That's why the old expression exists as above, so below, because there is no difference between these expressions in the physical or the non-physical, but what you say is right. What you are saying is exactly right. It is that illusion between the two that we come into ourselves. You cannot
the veils.
The veils. But you can't penetrate somebody else's veil. You can only know your own veil, like you were saying.
That's because you're a closed system.
That's right. You're a closed system. You can't break through that. So that experience is meant to carry on. And I have a thought for you, and I need to get your perspective and idea on this. I've said this over and over. I always try and look at this idea as through common sense, Rick, as in layman's terms, because your expressive thought process, I have a hard time comprehending and holding on to. So I really mean that. I have to think about everything that you say. I have to think about it. So
I'm working on another level of circuits. That's why there's a group out there that want to melt my brain after I'm dead and see what that. No, I'm not kidding. I have.
So let me finish. Let me finish my thought. Just let me finish my thought. As above, so below. Everything is expressed naturally and internally and closed system, as you say. And here's your closed system for you, Rick. And I want to get your thought. You have a you have a single-celled organism. That single-celled organism knows that it has to split itself. It creates itself another single closed system. It is of itself, but now cannot penetrate the other closed cell organism. They know they're alike, but they're individuals. Those two split into four. Those four split into 8 into 16, 16 to 32, so on and so forth. So all these closed, single-celled entities, organism, consciousness expand on themselves, creating their own universe and expanding the universe far beyond our possible wildest imagination as we sit here in this, closed system, expounding and expanding on ourselves. Your thoughts?
That is one way of looking at what's going on right now. Yeah, that's a very good way. It is interesting to note that they've now discovered that all the fish in the sea, that little Mitch Ryder there before people were born in the 60s, Mitch Ryder say, the little fishy in the sea, each one of them has now been shown to have its own personality.
Thank you. You just okay.
There it is. So it is a way of looking at things like there's no such thing as gravity. The Earth sucks. It's just a metaphor. It's a way of looking at it. That's why you're God's favored. You have choice. And that's what gives us the length, girth, and width of what constitutes the glory of what man can be. Did you know that chimpanzees and others have similar characteristics, just like the fish do? Personality. Some are grumpy. Some are joyful. Again, you have choice. And uniqueness is that everything's individually different.
But yet we are all exactly the
same.
Well,
you are at one level of the hologram.
Right.
And the way the hologram works now is it doesn't measure in space and time, which considers everything as illusion. It considers it as information and resolution of information. And here's this is for Badbaby, because I love her. I think she's cool. I think that the physical plane is IQ. The emotional plane is why we call it EQ. It's got more detail about the physical plane. That's why it's superior. Many Jesuits come to mind. The idea that how you feel about the physical plane. The next level up, by the way, is Plato's basic form and what distinguishes a chair from a couch. They both do the same thing, but they're different. And that's John Bohm. Different similarities. One is implied. It's the implicate order. It's implied in the structure of the choice of how you say what's going on. And so there are preferred pathways. Shortest distance is through a black hole. It's like that's a model that you assume is true. Information is not what you think it is, because there's a theorem that says that if you have enough information to ask a coherent question, you have enough information to answer it. It is in the structure of the way you form the question. The answer is already there.
But you just made me think about something. A coherent statement is not a coherent statement because it's not. It's a vocalization of what our minds put together to try and make a coherent statement. But verbally, what we're saying is not how we are taking it in from the universe. We're not taking it right. We're not taking it in that way from the universe because it is just descrambled or decoded in our brain in that way. But it is not a verbalization of any kind
because it doesn't have words, and that's why one of the original Bibles was called the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, that related sounds to words. And why you had a thing that Avram Moles wrote on aesthetic perception and information theory that is redundancy, if you catch my drift.
Yes.
That's
very much
metaphor.
So.
And that's why Gregory Bateson, I took a course from him, and I remember when he said that, what is your metaphor? But to serve your paradox. And so what I have is a meadow with two ox in it, looking at each other as a reflection.
Wow, that's really interesting. To serve your paradox. Wow, you just opened up a can of worms right there that you can't imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about
and that's why
said, though, to serve your paradox.
You want to record me because every time you listen to what I said, I'm working on another level, and you'll catch something more from the same words, only what I'm doing is what's called Dr. Strange. I am now
Dr. Strange squared, by the way. Dr. Strange squared to the power of 10. Let's put it that way. Talk to the train squared to the power of 10, which is an incalculable number from my understanding of how
that's base 10. If you
works.
did abacus, you would have been base 12. Base 3 has no primes, and binary, of course, is legendary with this or that.
Okay,
all different number systems. Binary is this way or that way. However, base 10 sets up logarithms, and that's where you use reflection, where it harms none or reflected back threefold. That means its amplitude is squared.
That's why I said it's squared to the power of 10.
There it is. That's because you had 10 fingers. That's the way you count
right.
it.
That's right. Well, that number is that number is actually incalculable. Squared to the power of 10. There's not enough zeros to the whole idea of the Googleplex that Carl Sagan was talking about, the incalculable, that goes far beyond that. Squared
and so
to the power of 10
mathematics became the first forms of language, and then we had Babel, where everybody speak differently.
Right.
And that part is now. I have a friend up in Canada that I'm right. He has a comic business. That's what he does. He writes comics, and he's asked me to write up a comic with him. And he said something very interesting to me. He said the Chinese are different than base primary languages of Europe because we're trying to communicate, and the older languages, Chinese, was persuasive, trying to persuade. Now, there's a distinctional difference in the way you would structure questions and the way you would respond to them. And persuasion is different than passing information. Mother languages are Roman, that kind of thing. I remember when they required me to take Latin in second grade. Educational systems today are in disarray so badly that while millennials are very smart, they're not practical at all.
The house of smoking mirrors, Rick. Education today is the house of smoking mirrors.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? Who would think that not studying, you don't learn something, you study it, by the way. That's a Sifu that hit me with a rod once to correct me on that one. You don't learn something, you study it. Because it's always in reference to your own center, not Wing Chun is all the same thing. It's different.
Well, I have a question for you, Rick. Since a lot of society is so low in vibration and people are hooked on drugs and they're like becoming zombified and it's just like unreal how much of this goes on. Is that mass consciousness of a low level energy affecting
I'm learning
our
the
planet?
difference in what addiction is over a tool. For example, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, when he wrote
this is like a mass consciousness thing because it's
everybody's changing.
Right.
Even the girls dancing down in Arabia to Pharrell Williams and having to go to jail.
That low vibration of energy, is that part of the reason why our planet is dying and breaking apart and that?
I don't think the planet's dying. I think man is. Planet's just fine. It'll get on without us. If you want to look at it. It
always has. I'll agree with that statement. It always has.
I mean, it isn't. The planet's not dying. It's man's biosphere. And isn't it interesting that man's biosphere is a very narrow band between here and there, whereas someone like orca, dolphin, manatee, pilot whale, all these cetaceans have a much larger biosphere, and they're better designed for that inhabitant than we are.
Well, but I also believe that, Rick, we were engineered in place here. I think you believe the same thing.
What do you mean to dig gold for Neighborhood? That's our future coming in to pick up the rent?
No.
I thought I'd play with that one.
Yeah, but no.
I know. I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, but we were
fun. Gee, I want to make
this.
Well,
yeah,
fun.
Rick, I want you to have. Look, you believe in puppies and unicorns. I do too. But the reality is that we were engineered
Well, I would like to know where the fourth genome came from. That's interesting. Rhesus negative. Where did that come from?
That's exactly right. I was just going to go there, and you took it out of my mouth, so go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of unknowns. And God, I don't know about dice and gambling, but he doesn't play dice. I don't know about that part. What I do know is when I start to wake up to myself and do what my joy. By the way, that's the highest form of love there is. It's after bliss. You have love, bliss states, and then you have states of joy where you're on fire, like the Quaker uses it. And that is a place to seek, because when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing here, there's nothing in your way. Nothing. It's like it's handed you the flow. And when you find that timeless place, there's magic there where you are empowered beyond yourself. And that's the place that man is, as a collective, we are all now seeking. And while some of us got off the couch and stopped eating Dorito corn chips sooner than others, we're still into the GMO, making everything the same. You know what I don't like about laws is that it requires us all to be the same, when in fact the magic of what makes us human is our diversity.
Well, I can tell you this, Rick, that the word anarchy was hijacked a long time ago, because the actual word anarchy means just simply, and it just means this. It doesn't mean lawlessness. It doesn't mean to create havoc or destroy or kill. It simply means without government. That's all it means. And people have been, of course, dumbed down and neutered through the powers that be, through their manipulation to again hijack our language. And
here's the bad news on all of that. You know, all these kids, the pedophiles, all the rest of it, they learn that from their parents.
Yeah, I know.
So it's extremely important to walk your talk and try to set an example for yourself, because your children are watching you. And that's why Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young said to teach your children well, because that's how they learn how to be a gambler.
Well, you know, speaking of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, who were very popular in the 60s and 70s, I mean, you had the whole 70s movement, you know, against war, against government, the whole thing. And what happened? Those people were hijacked into, you know, the business world to make lots of money and become very corrupt throughout the you know, that generation, in order to implement the same crap that they're feeding us now, that we were trying to break away from and they were trying to break away from.
Well, then there it is. You've got a choice. Process. That's it. Follow your gut. If the first thought that comes into your mind, most always the correct one, the first thought.
I agree. Rick, I totally agree with you on the reality of this, that our reality, what it is supposed to be and what it is, was hijacked a long time ago. It's illusion upon illusion, and people have to break through the matrix in order to understand. Well, then that's why you talked about
Simon Says and focused on the door. Look, children, over here. ISIS is beheading us. Oh, hey, children, look over here. And what is happening is, while you're looking, they're pickpocketing you. That's Harry in your pocket. And that was a great movie. And it's illusion. That's why they call it legerdemain, sleight of hand. Now, magic is sleight of mind, where you use your mind as a tool, not to figure things out, but to change them. And you do that with imagination. Imagination is reality. That is the only thing limiting you. And anything you can imagine in your mind's eye is true.
So let me ask you this, Rick. I mean, wait. Oh, Jesus, I can't believe the time is flying by here. Let me ask you this, because it's going to be a little long-winded.
That's okay. I like working with you too.
It's going to be long-winded for you, but my question to you is very short. How do we break out of this control construct that has been basically placed for a century?
Start with baby steps, little steps for yourself. Do not concern yourself with your wife, your neighbors, your children. Worry about yourself. Fix that first. If you fix that, that is archetypal, and the thing is fixed.
Yeah, but
I'm waiting
the
for
problem
you to
is,
do it.
But the problem is that you have a whole generation, and then I'm talking about my generation. I'm 51, Rick, and the generation which now they're basically calling generations 20 years. So let's take the 30-year-olds.
Yeah, you call you. I was
right.
baby boomer. Yeah.
All those Xanax,
Xanax.
mind control. They are. They're Xanax, mind control.
Did you know that, yeah, drugs, you say war on drugs, and then Clinton brings them in. That's right. That's how that all works. Okay, here's the deal. Drugs are not bad or good. They're tools. Just like Sherlock Holmes had the 9.5% solution. The distinction between being an addict and using it as a tool is so fine a line between the one and the other. That's where life exists, in the distinction between the one and the other, and that's PGO waves in the occipital region of the cerebral cortex. They're using now ibogaine as a new drug that stops all forms of addiction with one single use, and it's not about selective like opiates and barbiturates and It's the little games that you do in the morning. When you get up in the morning and you flush the toilet and then you try to put toothpaste on your toothbrush before the toilet clears, those whole games that you play with each other are where your distinction is between addiction and a tool that serves a function and you can manage. Coping is different in terms of awarenesses, your conscious and the subconscious mind. And you should be aware of all. That's what meditation does. It gives you back to you.
What you just said just really kind of shocked me. Okay, you said between using the toilet and putting the toothpaste on your toothbrush.
Little games that you play, making the bed. The way you do this, the right shoe first.
But there's like so what you're basically saying is there a momentary lapse of reason between point A and point B, which is very quick, to make you think outside that control construct, to make you reason is what's right and what's wrong, and do I have the ability to change my behavior? Is that what you're saying?
Well, not only do you have the ability to change, you are changing, whether you like it or not. That is the rule.
But it's that simple little skip between momentary lapse of reason.
That's where consciousness
right
changes the reality. Those are the altered states that I talk about that you're going in and out of. And you change one of those, like putting a Post-it note on the refrigerator saying, I don't need to eat this. It takes 3 months, 3 periods of the moon, the way Crowley put it, to change a habit.
And yet they tell us that 2 weeks can break any addiction.
No, it takes 3 months. You have to be active, proactive on it for 3 months. That is, I have discovered why. It has to do with Tattvic tides and some older things that have nothing to do with astrology or astronomy, but were another form. Tattvic tides are these seasonal changes that your body tunes into with dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine was originally to readjust your body for seasonal changes so you didn't get the flu. And that, it's called the third eye. But you
now
can.
They put squalene and mercury in the flu shot, so you die quicker. We got that. Oh, totally got that.
But you can do those. You can generate those aha moments and creativity on demand, just like you can dimethyltryptamine, the chill. You have to practice a little bit, but you can make it happen just for yourself in your mind's eye. You don't need to take a drug to do that. Now, being able to do that at will takes a lot of work. It's like meditation. It's to quiet the mind and bring it down to the state of blank state mind.
But and Rick, I need to point this out that Badbaby's been doing meditation. She has finally stepped into the realm of doing meditation. Some pointers for her to help her excel her meditation because she's been working at it.
Well, the Jesuits used whips. Pain. Yeah, there's a different ways to get to Rome. You can whip yourself into a frenzy. You can Om Shri. You can be a granola or a blue hair. That's what I call them. And bob along with your own illusions of, isn't that cool? That's the difference in that movie with Jane Fonda and what's the other woman? What was her name? Last night comedy. Lily Tomlin. Yeah, there it is. And the first one's called The End, where they're both their husbands decide they're in love with each other and they're gay. That's a good one. Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. The combination is into the out of. Well, one's a hippie and the other's they play off each other and they take peyote and watch what happens next. I find that laughter and humor and not taking things too seriously really helps me get along. And it's actually
exactly how I get along.
Right. But I was just simply going to say, I mean, what's your meditation structure, or do you have?
I'd start with the third eye. I'm a satsangi. I was initiated by Sharon saying I use a hammer. My head.
I got it.
I'm kidding. My meditation starts at the third eye. That is, unfortunately, another misconception in Western traditions over Eastern, where the woman starts with the heart and the men start with the third eye. And you'll find that rampant in some of the older patriarchal systems. And really, my girlfriend is dangerous when wet. She's EQ, and she doesn't miss a link, and I have to give her credit because while I think I'm fairly awake, she sees things I can't. And that's why you have physical representation of the inner.
Rick, isn't that usually the case that because we're in that closed system, that someone could see something that you can't see because we are in that closed system?
Well, it's that inner voice is always feminine. And James Hillman, this is really important, made a distinction between gayness in men and gayness in women called the anima and the animus. They're quite different.
I know that.
Well, no, they're not opposites like the male and...
Right, I know.
Okay, it functions differently. And often, gayness in women is because a woman can touch differently than a man gropes.
Yes.
And that's what they're seeking in a higher form of emotional states. And so it serves, even cowgirls get the blues. And so we've got a storyboard here now happening where man and woman are a closed system like your brain is into the out of. And that's why the second path, if you do it androgynously or you do it with a physical reflection in the world. And it's a dialogue that you should be having internally and externally because you're walking all paths at the same moment.
Yeah, that is absolutely 100% truth. Walking all paths simultaneously.
Well, that's why they say it that way. You're not only going to Chicago. And by the way, the two brains are what Castaneda suggested might be bilocation, where you can be at two places at the same time.
And yet we've heard the stories, Rick, of the shamans who reached selflessness or purity, which they were able to, and this has been factual, they were able to bilocate at multiple places at the same time.
I have a picture.
Including, go ahead.
I have a picture of Don Gennaro, actually down in Mexico. Peter First, when I was working for the military, they were all interested in all kinds of paranormal things, like the Nazis. Previous epochs had technologies we don't. And how did they build those pyramids? They didn't do it with mastodons in 10,000 BC. How did they do it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But what I do know is that he blew the horn. Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yeah. Sound, and I see it in Whirling Dervish. I see it when, what is it, her name? Gabriel Roth dancing, like the Whirling Dervish. There is a type of energy that is outside space-time. There is a movie out, Meetings with Remarkable Men, Gurdjieff. And at the very end of the movie, there is a series of different dances where they start with the children and how to make hand movements. And then they go up to the next level with women dancing the same movement. Then they get 19 men to do a 3, 6, 9 cadence march, precision, which is a rodent coil. And I'm going to tell you, there was technologies. Rodent coil is cold fusion. I'm going to tell you, there are technologies we have forgotten that are just as powerful as nuclear energy.
That's definitely the principal thirds for sure.
And I'm just waking up to understanding, because what I want to do is get off the wheel. I've had enough of this nonsense. And the one half from 1%.
So, Rick, what happens when you come back?
I'm not well, then I'm stuck in jail again. I just didn't learn my lesson. There it is. That's why I try not to repeat the same errors I made the last time. I make lots of errors.
We all do. We all do.
But I try not to repeat them.
But you know what the beauty part is like you've stated that every time our consciousness comes back and inhabits this physical body, we gain a little bit more experience, a little bit more knowledge based on all the previous life experiences we had, and that's what's allowed. That's what
there are demons. Yeah, there are demons. There are Klingons. They will drag you back into places of wounding. You have to always take a bath.
You got to rinse yourself off. No question about it. I mean,
clean yourself and purify yourself and purify yourself and clean yourself like the alchemy of 14th century, turning base metals into gold.
H2O, baby, H2O, or maybe HH2O.
How about H3O2?
There you go.
Yeah, because that's, by the way, why how he discovered H3O2 was he noted that an athlete, when he had muscle damage, always muscle grew back the way it was originally. Like the muscle had memory.
Right.
And if I had a big gut, then I came back to a big gut. and it takes 3 months to change habits, including gut, muscle, and the rest of it. And all of that was in the water that goes into the cell rather than the urine. And the more unstructured the water, the more it urinates.
Interesting.
That's a good rule.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's wow.
And that's a useful metaphor because that's when you can integrate in your life. And by the way, just praying on the water will kill vampires.
There's plenty of those psychic vampires.
Yeah, I read an article where someone wrote hate on the bottle and love on a bottle, and the hate bottle turned black.
Oh, no, Rick. Oh, no. Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
What are you projecting towards the water, that it's going to be good or bad?
Yes, and newsflash, at the end of the day, it either is good or bad.
Yeah, you're right. And also,
that's the choice you have.
To bring up this fact that, and this was back in the 70s. I remember this when I was a kid watching a documentary on this. There was a scientist, I don't remember his name at this time, but he gave loving, caring words of wisdom and thought to these plants, and then in the other control group, he yelled and screamed at them, calling them all kinds of names. The ones that he nourished and cherished and gave all kinds of loving thoughts and words flourished incredibly. The ones he yelled and screamed at and hatefully and called them all kinds of names basically diminished. And gave them both the same amount of water and nutrition.
Yeah, that's a motto.
Frequency.
And the secrets of water. Yeah.
That's frequency. That is all based on frequency and thought frequency.
The bad news is there's a distinction between ghosts and poltergeists. And that's one of the studies I did and when you die, sometimes water, the soul, gets trapped in matter. and that's a ghost. And because that universe has parasite, just like we do,
yeah,
a ghost becomes it breaks down and becomes less human, and then it becomes a poltergeist. They're here.
Well, but really quick. I mean, once you've achieved consciousness inhabiting a human body, the human shell, right? This container.
Temporary.
I don't. Right. I got it. It's temporary, but it. As the expansion continues, I don't think you can ever revert back. But I think you got a point that yes, you can become degraded in a way because of the experience that consciousness had, that reverts back a little further into an earlier time of its conscious existence as it inhabited a human container, a human vessel. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, right now my girlfriend's threatening me that if I don't, it's 9 o'clock. I've got to. You need to have me back more often.
Yeah. Oh, Rick, we're definitely going to be back.
I do like Robert. You are a true seeker, and you need a teacher now. Not me. I'm too old. But I have some people I could mess you up with. Yeah, Badbaby comes to mind. I'll bet you were like ripped when you were running truck.
Oh, she was a fire.
Actually, I used to be the lead truck a lot.
Oh no, the convoy. Here we go.
And I used to have a fuzz buster in there so I could speed. And so everybody would want to get behind me, and I wouldn't talk because I drove team, and I didn't talk on the radio a lot because I drove team and I didn't want to disturb my partner. So one time I had like 15 trucks following me about 500 miles. We were just hauling ass, and some of these
two guys in the back. They made a movie about you, didn't they? It was called Big Trouble in Little China.
Right.
I remember
that.
Guys
in the back were talking back and forth, and they said, "Now this is a real convoy, and we'll be doing okay as long as we don't let a woman in here." And of course, I had to say something.
That's where you'd go into the whackering section, like the Quaker whacking them.
I didn't say anything. The guy behind me said, "Well, I hate to disappoint you, but there is one." And he goes, "Really? Where is she?" And he goes, "She's been hauling your ass across the state for the last 500 miles." And he goes, "No, she's the lead truck." And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how come she hasn't said anything?" And so I keyed up and I said, "Because then I'd have to speak to an ass like you."
Oh, no. You have it by divine right. I'm out of your way. You're the leader. I'll be the loose and crunchy guy. Live long and crunchy. I'll be second.
I'm a cheery kind of girl, you know. I mean, when I worked at Lionel, they called me the singing supervisor.
Oh, no. I like the nuns out of none of this and none of that. I could just see the hills are alive. Alive. Frankenstein.
No, I would make up corny songs about my job, you know, and try to make the best of it.
I used to move 150 trucks a year just out of La Pine and Bend, Oregon, just picking up Ponderosa pine cone. 150 trucks. How many jobs do you think that created?
Quite a few.
Yeah, and a little place up in the middle of nowhere, and all it's doing is dropping cone on the ground to create a fire hazard. And we make money off of trees, and everything is marketable.
It is.
Just between here in Grants Pass and Goshen, there are 60 different native grasses that take a dye. What color would you like it?
Yeah, but Rick, can you smoke them?
You can smoke them, you can jerk them, don't bogart them, and we have both medical and hemp. And let me tell you where the money is. You know, hemp is the strongest fiber there is in making sailcloth for ships. And it's got a long fiber to it. That's why I was working, when I first came out of grad school in 1968, I worked at Lunar Base Alpha 1 under Art Pilgrim. It's part of Boeing. That later was in South Park, and it later became NASA Space Center, Boeing Space Center down in Kent. But originally it was in Tukwila, and that's where all the scientists were, and it was just like the old man that had me. up there in Wilmington. And more PhDs per square foot than anywhere else in the world, man. That's where I learned or studied holographic systems. I was walking down the hall. I looked in this one room, and here's Gabor, Nobel Prize winner, with a three-dimensional color TV. And that was in 1966. Now,
Isn't it wonderful that they never showed us, Rick?
They've never made a three-dimensional color TV. How come? The Arabs have it with lions and things jumping out of the ground, with fish. It's a holographic thing. But originally, they had one of those functional back in 1966. I saw it.
Yeah, that was 2 years before I was. 1966.
I was born. That made me feel just special.
I was born in '66, Rick.
Oh man!
Unbelievable, man.
I don't even go there. I'm feeling now the fourth enemy, old age, is starting to. Yeah, but I have been there and done that, and I can tell you that time is not real.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I absolutely agree.
What you try to do is make everything you do special.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it becomes sacred. And that's going from the profane into the sacred. And that is where you evolve.
Well, listen, Rick, excuse me, I want to thank you very much again for joining us, and absolutely we'll have you back. I mean, yeah, the thought process, I mean, you just throw stuff out there so quick that I have to stop you and say, wait a minute, what did you just say? What did you just say? Because your mind works at milliseconds so fast.
I don't know about that part. I'm different, no question. And well, what the heck is that? Dang, what is that? Live.
Yeah. But I want to thank you so much, Badbaby.
My pleasure. Yeah, I always want to thank you.
Yeah.
And Badbaby's a kick. How's it like that? Goes downhill from there, right?
Have you back.
Yeah. Nice talking to both of you. Thank you. And my girlfriend.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a wonderful evening. Well, that was a great show.
Yes, it was another great show. Guess what? My internet just went down, so I have to wait to boot back up to end the show.
Lord.
So I'm going to ransack you for a few minutes. I'm going to crack the whip, man. You are under my control.
Oh, Lord.
I am going to create some things here. Let's see. He says we can manifest anything we want. Well, I'm manifesting myself up a drink, and it's going to be a drink with the captain. Can you figure it out?
Yeah, I can definitely figure it out. So I'm going to go have a drink with my little girlfriend Brandy in a few minutes.
Yeah, I used to say that when I left Lionel. I'd say, I'm going home, I got a date. And they'd say, a date with who? I'd say, the captain, Captain Morgan. Had many dates with that guy.
Yeah, I could say I've had many dates with, Brandy and April Wine and Captain Jack and a few others, but Captain Jack's actually a girl. So, but Rick blows my mind. I mean, every time I talk to him,
he's out there. I'll tell you that.
I mean, he blows my mind. He makes me come back into myself and rethink things over and over and over. And when you have a guy who can be so in depth and just blurt out something so quickly and just say, wait a minute, what did you just say? Are you serious? It's like you've got to rethink the thought of, you got to rethink the sentence, the statement he just made, and then, quickly try and recalculate that idea or thought that, he just expelled from his lips and go, my God, holy cow. And then you start recalculating, reigniting your brain cells to make everything spark and go, wow, that's something, that's deep. And he just blows my mind every time. And I love talking to the guy. I mean, yes, he is a very eccentric guy. but that extra eccentricism comes from his very very quick thinking mind. He what he reminds me of, just as a parody, is kind of like Robin Williams. That his mind worked like 10 times faster than his mouth could move. And in this realm, really, right, in this realm of clarity and truth and a proponent of reality, he is kind of like that Robin Williams. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? He reminds me of having ADD because he can't sit still to let you ask a question.
Right, and that's what I thought Robin Williams had, ADD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
okay, I am back up and running now.
Okay.
I couldn't even tell you. How many months has it been I'm fighting with this internet still?
It's been a few.
Down. Oh, and and I've had the repair guy here, and
I know.
They've tried everything, run a new line, do this, change the box, nothing's fixing it. So I'm just to the point where I give up, but it's very aggravating because it must.
I know.
The last time I had a guy out, and that was like 3 weeks ago, it had gone out 158 times.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We all, hey, the internet went down.
Right, I told you my internet went down today, and I was like, serious? And I was like down for like 5-6 hours. And I'm calling, and I'm like,
I could put it right back up. I unplug it, plug it back in, and got to wait a few minutes. But I mean, it's aggravating, especially if you're writing an email and you lose it all. And
right.
But I'm going to create some happiness over it.
That's right. I'm projecting happiness, love, and peace towards you right now. Right now.
He doesn't understand what kind of person I am. Because regardless of what I'm going through, I'm always trying to be happy and singing.
I know. I absolutely know. But Rick needs to. I mean, if you and Rick, had a one-on-one conversations, just personal, not on air or anything like that, but just personal conversation, he understood a little bit more about what you've gone through. Because if you would actually tell him the story, what happened, I think he would have a different perspective on that. But, I think he really would. He really would.
That's, and like you told me the other day, I should write a book. But you know what? I don't want to write it down and see it. It's like reliving it. I can tell the story, but I cannot write it. So, hey, it's written already. I'll have to look at it again when I go to the other side.
Well, it is written already. The whole thing's written. You can go review it in the Akashic Records on the other side.
Well, that's all right. I'll pass a few chapters if you don't mind.
I can't argue with that.
And I plan on making a few chapters. I plan on getting my motorcycle out this year and doing a little tearing up. So there's good, there's bad.
Yeah, you know what? You deserve to do it. You deserve it. You deserve it. You've been through a hell of a thing. You're still going through it, I know, but you know what? You need that little bit of personal, that personal bit of happiness. That whatever makes you happy, you go do. And that's an individual thing. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. You go do it.
Well, like I try to tell the targets. They think that I don't care about what's going on. I do care, and I just don't. I just want to try to get away from it as much as I can, and keep my joy. I know it never leaves me alone, but what? I'm still going to try to live my life. I'm not going to let them steal my life. I want to live it, and live it as joyful as I can. And regardless of what happens, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this is the way it is for me, or this is the way I have to feel. This is the way they make you want to feel. I'm not going to feel that way. I'm going to feel the way I want to feel, which is the way I always used to be. And
you're taking that initiative and putting it in your own hands, and that's the important part. no matter what they do or how they do it.
And I'll cry if I want to.
Absolutely. Just so you know, I put an email into our friend at Skywatch Media. I'm still waiting for a response. I put that email in yesterday. I really hope he responds back, because that would be a great conversation from Skywatch Media. It really would. I haven't heard anything back yet. But
see if you can get a hold of Deborah, too. See if we can get Deborah Tavera.
You know what? I went to her website. There's no contact on that page. Yeah.
I know someone that has her phone number, but I don't want to call that person.
Well, give me the number. I'll call that person.
No.
Okay,
I'll
all right.
To you about this.
All right.
Okay, well, you know what? I forgot all about. We're still being recorded.
Yeah, I know.
See you Thursday.
All right,
well, we may as well tell everybody who we're having next week.
Yeah.
Next week we're having a man on. His name is Michael Geely, and he is a chemist, and he sells colloidal silver generators, and we're going to talk about colloidal silver and cancer and a lot of things that colloidal silver can help you with, and cold and flu and cough, and I mean just
cancer.
the whole gamut. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
So he's going to be on next week, and we'll let you guys ask questions if you have a health question, or he's also going to give out information on how to buy a colloidal silver generator from him, which they're very inexpensive. I really recommend that you get one, so that if something does happen where we don't have a medical field to go to, we get sick, we can make our own colloidal, and you can do it with just batteries, So if you don't know about it, you need to come and get educated about it. And we're trying to be a little bit off of the doom and gloom and a little bit on the, hey, let's get it together here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're right, because we need to help people heal. I know everybody loves the fear porn. I got that, but you know what? Whatever happens, but the aftermath and reality of it all is we need to survive, and we need to, recapture who we are, and humanity needs to move forward. So I agree with you. Absolutely.
All right, honey. Well, we've gone 15 minutes over, and thank you again for co-hosting with me. And again, thank Dr. Richard. We want to thank you. We're going to have you back.